Please like, comment, subscribe, and support.
Kanpai, everybody. Welcome to another Geeking Off podcast. Coming a little bit late due to some vacation, and life always seems to get in the way when you want to do stuff. Yeah, it's my life, but I deal with it. I move on with life. You just could do the best you can. That's all I can say.
Computers, gaming, retro gear, devices, tech reviews, and more. Geeking Off with Andrew.
So how you doing today, Macro? Welcome to the show again.
I am good. What are you drinking?
It's Sawtooth beer. It's a local brew from Missoula, I believe.
I'm drinking Pepsi from 1893.
Now,
I guess it's the original formula or something.
Oh, okay. Unless they just left it sitting somewhere in the warehouse and saying, "Oh, well, we got to get rid of this, so we're going to market this in a weird
it's
way."
Definitely not aged. That would just be terrible. That would literally be drinking aluminum flakes.
Oh, yeah, you got a point there. So let's go ahead and get started on our first segment. And on our first segment, we're going to discuss about, everyone's panicking. Is Ubuntu the enemy to Linux? Are they the enemy? Are they something we should worry about? Especially now that Bash coming to Windows. I think it's already on Windows, but it looks like Canonical said, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna do something different here. We're gonna allow Microsoft to have Bash, and because Windows needs Bash, because without it, it's not Windows. It's just a gaming platform, right?"
I don't even know what to call it. They first started out with Project Astoria. They wanted to integrate Android apps into Windows, and I think that was mostly because Windows Phone was a complete failed project. No one wanted to develop for it, so they thought, hey, we'll take a shortcut. We'll have a universal Windows platform between our desktops and our phones, and it'll run Android apps so people can't complain about an app shortage. That completely fell through. So now, coming in the Windows update this summer, you're going to have Ubuntu, the command line core version. Not with an X Windows system, but get access. All the things you would typically do with a Linux terminal will be in Windows. And they say they're doing it for developers.
That's what they're saying. It's not for the desktop user. But from what I understand, isn't there people out there trying to get this sucker to actually run X? I've heard some rumors out there that people are actually trying to do it now. Why not?
I'm sure there are people trying to do that to maybe prove a point, but if anyone's actually trying to do that and actually use it that way, it's something practical, I don't know if they're just trolling or if they're actually dead serious about that. Because I only really saw this being used by a giant niche just of sysadmins and developers who didn't want to dual boot or virtualize.
I guess that's another situation. Is this just a virtualization inside of a container, or is this actually going into the Windows 10 code?
They said it is running on a foundation of native Windows libraries.
Interesting.
That's what they word for word said. I would guess that the kernel, they somehow managed to make it run alongside the NT kernel.
And I guess the biggest question is here, do you feel a little betrayed by Canonical? Just a little bit? Does this feel wrong to you in any way?
I was starting to look at the positives because I come from a sysadmin background. People weren't taking the PowerShell the way Microsoft wanted it to, so they brought this forward. Microsoft is coming out at developer conferences saying, we love Linux, but I think they're doing that as a matter of preservation because they are completely losing the server market. They are losing the desktop market because people are buying more mobile phones than they are laptops and desktops. And they're trying to use this to work with their new financial model, which is advertising and spyware, which is potentially made Microsoft worse than they ever were. People are saying this isn't the same Microsoft. It isn't.
No, it's not.
It's worse.
Do you think that this could possibly bring spyware and other type of malware into, say, like the Ubuntu project, where, next thing you know, it's got the spyware problem that Windows 10 has, and it's keeping an eye on you?
I'd say that's unlikely, but the potential is there. A lot of security issues can be tied to market share, and while this could, say, artificially raise the market share for Linux, I don't think it's going to be targeted very much in that manner.
I guess it depends on how big the check that Canonical gets from Microsoft on something like this. I mean, they're definitely working together, and the enemies of yesteryear are now together. It's definitely an interesting time.
Definitely. It's kind of hard to know which side to be on.
No, I agree. I know I'm the kind of person, I came over to Linux to de-Microsoft my life, to get away from it. And I guess for me, if I'm going to continue to stay like that, I'm going to have to stay with other operating systems like Arch Linux, or Debian. I still in love with Ubuntu Mate. It's still one of my favorite releases, but I think that's definitely something I usually give out to clients and install it on the TV, computer, stuff that I'm not really using as a daily driver myself, but it still helps people get started in Linux. Roy loves it. He adores it, So I go with that. I mean, I guess at first I was a little upset, maybe a little over the top, and there just may or may not be a video on my channel of me flipping out at Canonical, calling them names and cussing them out, but yeah, it's just how it works,
You have to... The way I'm starting to look at it is Microsoft was starting to lose ground, and Ubuntu, the Canonical of all people, the people who are trying really hard to push desktop Linux in the mainstream, are working against that movement by helping Microsoft flourish.
Well, they're definitely not going anywhere at the rate they're going, so Microsoft definitely's got to jump on the game. I mean, they can't even make phones, Well, they tried. I have still yet to even play with the Windows Phone, and don't plan to. What's funny is I never even see them in the wild. It seems like to me, definitely Apple has the smartphone market, because co-workers, friends, that's all what they use. It's very rare I even see an Android phone. I'm an Android user,
It's a little different for me over here. I see mostly Android phones. I've seen a few Windows phones, but they went to Android about a year later.
Yeah, Japan is a big iPhone place too. That's all you find, iPhone accessories everywhere. It's amazing how big it is over there.
I wouldn't expect that at all.
Yeah, I didn't see many cheap Chinese Android phones or computers or laptops. They were mostly all Apple products. It's mind-blowing. There's some Windows out there, some Acers, and I just have to say this. I finally got to try an Oculus Rift, and I was disappointed. And you are asking the question, is Linux really going anywhere? And according to this link, it's to Linus Torvalds still wants Linux to take over the desktop. I'm with him on that.
It's really just him looking back on saying he started this as a hobby, and it's become so many things. He's not sure where he's going to go. He doesn't plan that far ahead, but he doesn't see it going anywhere. And that's the beauty of it. No matter what happens with Ubuntu, with Microsoft involved, Linux will still be there in some way, shape, or form. And the beauty of it being open nature, we can always make it what we want it to be. That's mostly what this article covered to me.
Linux has always kind of struggled to become number one on the desktop. I think it's very possible. It's just, I think a lot of people out there are just, they stick to what they know. They don't want to learn something new. Sometimes you just got to switch it on them,
Because if people aren't willing to learn something new, why are so many people completely ditching Windows laptops and desktops and using entirely their phones? That is learning something new.
Very true, but I think it's one of those things they don't know they're really doing it. They're just using something new. Admit, grandmas can handle their tablets better than they can a desktop PC. So maybe I guess for the power users is where the Linux desktop is going to continue to thrive versus, the average Joe. They just want to use their phone. I think one person, I can't remember his name. I think it's AA Technologies, did a video where he wanted a netbook for school, and he's like, well, this is kind of slow. And I kind of threw him in the comments, have you ever thought of the idea of getting a tablet, a USB, not a USB, but a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse? You turn that thing into a netbook.
I wouldn't worry about Linux capturing a desktop. Really, I don't want it to fully capture the desktop. I would rather I want it to be popular. I do want it to build a big support community and all that. But because it isn't the big popular thing, I think is part of what it makes it so great, because it's a bunch of tinkers, a bunch of people making it their own, a bunch of volunteers, no big corporations behind it, is part of what makes it so great.
Very true. The more bigger it gets, I guess. Of course, you got people like Canonical, they're going to jump in on this, and it's definitely going to change the game. They're going towards the direction of their tablet OS, which I'm kind of curious. I want to play with it. I just haven't been able to get my hands on any of that stuff. But one day, somebody out there, send me one so I can just play with it.
Yes, send him one. He may or may not give a good review.
That's a good point.
Did
I can be pretty harsh. So if all this Microsoft nonsense drives you nuts, we're here to talk about, other alternatives you can go to if you want to get out of the Ubuntu universe and expand your Linux universe in your life. I noticed here, of course, Arch Linux, I highly recommended. It's got a hard learning and installing curve, but there are derivatives of that. For example, like Manjaro. It's got an installer. You don't have to worry about going through a bunch of hoops. It'll help you get you started and running really good. So I could recommend that if you want to get into the Arch space and you've never done it before. And then there's, of course, good old Debian. Gotta love Debian. Well, that wraps up. If you're looking to switch to other distros, give some of those a try. And we're going to go ahead and move on to some gaming. Doot, 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 doot. And welcome to the gaming section. I actually saw a Steam machine at Walmart. Don't know if I'm ready to pick
one.
Yeah, I think it was an Alienware one. I'm still not ready to pick one of those up. I just don't see a point to it right now. I still say your PlayStation's still holding the market pretty well. Nintendo's pretty much, I don't know if they're going to survive the next console release or not. We'll have to see. Because they're slowly disappearing. The only people who are holding on to Nintendo's world is people who are just want to play some Zelda, or some Mario. It's about all that's holding it right now. Yeah, we're gonna talk about a little bit of virtual reality here, seeing things that are virtual in reality. Yeah, I kind of had some experience with that in Japan. I got my hands on one of those Oculus Rifts. I was a little disappointed. I put the headset on, and the biggest thing I noticed right off the bat was I can see the pixels and the little screens in there, and that drove my eyes nuts. It was just so close to my eyes, you could see every one of those pixels on the screen, and I'm like, it doesn't feel virtual reality when you can see those right up in your face. I was a little disappointed. In the demo I had, it was some anime girl standing, and you can look at her, and this was in Japan. So you can look around her and look up her, and it was that part was interesting. Of course, I guess if you're a lonely Japanese guy, they got to make it for them. It was definitely an interesting experience. My wife even tried it, and she put it down. Honey, I don't know what this... no. I'm like, why? You don't want to look at her? She's in virtual reality.
I've been thinking the last few days about what you could call the next stage of our human evolution. So, trigger warning. We may end up getting into ethical, philosophical matters about what it means to be human in this segment.
Okay.
What are we going to do when our human bodies are starting to fail us? Could we get a surgery, or could we, say, download our brain into an android and live the rest of our life out in a robotic body? in a surrogate, so to speak. Headsets are preparing us for a fully immersed experience, a out-of-body experience, and it could be potentially giving us practice for that coming in the future, that we're not going to care to maintain our bodies so much that we will instead live in vastly superior robotic surrogates.
Although, when it comes to stuff like that, I question, am I really still alive? Or is it just a machine living it out as a soulless experience? That's definitely interesting. I can see it possible. So I guess if we're going to be in surrogates in that kind of situation, what happens to things like sex, and pleasure and... Oh, man.
Oh, God, have you seen Demolition Man? They put on the helmets, and you call that sex?
And it makes a robot baby, so you have a randomly generated child.
Oh, that could be terrifying. If you've ever gone down any of the Elder Scrolls or Fallout games and just hit the random generator character, if that comes to real life, we're gonna have some pretty freaky babies. More than we already have.
Remember that game you
said? A whole new People of Walmart website just for generated android babies.
Remember that game you suggested last podcast? Did you hear now they randomly generate females and the females are butt ugly? I mean butt ugly. Seriously.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and people were all up in arms over this because some people don't want to be a female, but it's now randomly generated, So the game's always been about that, but the character, you may get a very ugly, ugly, ugly woman. Yeah. Google females in that game, and you're going to be in for a treat.
Right now, we are projecting a version of ourselves online. When you are playing a video game, you are doing the same thing. Surrogates could be the very next stage of that. People are always trying to experiment with themselves. People are starting to put in implants, say RFID chips, magnets so they can feel electricity flow. But I feel most people, especially with how many people are afraid of needles, aren't going to go for that. So they would just rather control a remote robot instead.
I could live in a Minecraft world for the rest of my universal life. That would be cool.
Do you want to live in square graphics the rest of your life?
Yeah, well, you could switch it up, but it'd be interesting. You could actually live in that world versus you'd be a piece of code in a video game.
You argue with your wife, and she tells you you're being such a square, and it's literal.
Yep.
Artificial intelligence might be the next big thing. It might actually become, within our lifetime, have artificial intelligence that surpasses our own. I
think it's possible. I just don't know how well that's going to work. I have, I guess, a tough time understanding that can a machine really have a free will or, to think how, is it going to stay to a certain line of behavior and won't step out of those behavior lines ever?
I have a feeling that if we design a brain on a robot to act much like our own, there will be virtually no way for us to fully control it. And they've actually done experiments. I can't remember what the name of it. It was a type of worm. And they were able to completely recreate its whole nervous system, spinal column, on silicone. And they put it in a sort of robotic body with sort of a head sensor. Not really a camera, but just like an antenna like the worm has. And they gave it a motor, a set of wheels. And once they gave power to it, this artificial worm AI, it behaved in exactly the same fashion of the real organic one.
Interesting. So it could make a decision saying, hey, I'm going to go hack $1 million from the government. Steal a bunch of tax IDs.
I don't know. What would a infinitely growing robot really need with those resources? I guess it could just take everything.
If it wanted to, yeah. In that kind of end, I don't know. It's definitely not going to need money for resources. It's going to require other type of resources to keep its species alive.
And it was part of the reason I wanted to bring this up. There's always just the questions of, free will. Is there going to end up being a movement once these androids are out there walking among us? Equal rights for robots. And it could very well happen. And if that actually happens within our lifetime, that will be both terrifying and fascinating to witness.
Definitely.
It could influence our computers. The development for, say, neural processors could definitely turn around some amazing results for our desktops.
Well, if you're an Android, you could be the server for your particular, say, your life, your pictures, your videos, or whatever your Android's going to do with it. It could be part of a greater network. Would be no need for servers because everyone it'd be like a peer-to-peer Android communication system.
I'd say the networking is already there. You just have to modify a cell phone network, and they just all communicate and plot together to destroy us. Skynet.
Speaking of AI, I noticed you ran into that Nazi Microsoft bot. So that shows you it can be a little confusing, right?
Yes, Microsoft tried to put a self-learning robot on Twitter to act like a teenager. And within 24 hours, mostly thanks to the contributions of 4chan, the thing became a neo-Nazi and a Donald Trump supporter.
Interesting, huh? How the bot became supportive of Donald Trump. I wonder if that could be persuaded somehow.
Apparently, it just observes a lot of the comments. People who would say leave their replies to it. It would just study those and copy it. And that seems to be the only kind of AI Microsoft is capable of conjuring.
I get a kick out of one of these screenshots here. Microsoft AI bot. Tay becomes racist within hours. Microsoft is personally trying to delete all the posts now.
And the interesting thing is the Google equivalent in China, I think it's called Meizu, they did a similar robot. They've had it up for over a year, and it's never had problems like this. Leave it to Microsoft.
So someone sends it a dick pic. Well, that's not human looking. It works though, LOL. Gotta love the internet. The first thing you're gonna send an AI, hey, here's a picture of my dick.
And to make matters even worse, Microsoft did just that. They released a bot that makes comments on images.
I think I saw one last night about I think it was a picture of Darth Vader, and it says a man taking a selfie in a big city.
And I'm sure at this point, the entire audience is thinking, no, macro, AI is not going to happen in our lifetime. Not if Microsoft has anything to say about it. Look at this joke.
If Microsoft's going to succeed in anything, it just might be AI. Because I don't think many people are actually trying to work on it, so they will create the androids.
If they could succeed at anything, this thing could help write material for sitcom TV or Saturday Night Live, and it would be better than what's currently on there right now.
I can agree to that. Some of that stuff is just hilarious stuff coming out of it.
It can be a lot of things. We can think about digital assistants, Siri, Cortana, Google Now, or just anything we use our smartphones for. They have, for better or worse, become extensions to our cognitive abilities. Let me ask you, Anthony, do you remember any phone numbers anymore?
God, no. As a matter of fact, when people even ask me for my own phone number, I have to go into the settings of the phone to go look it up.
We hardly remember anything. We will Google anything we really can't remember. Our phones will remember everything for us. So it's very practical that, say, these things get implanted in us to help us remember and pull up things whenever we need it.
That's a good point.
We keep these phones by us every minute, every day. We hardly use our brains anymore.
And I admit, I understand that because I know it's like, wow, I wish I had this device when I was a teenager. If I wanted to know something, I had to go do the research on it, memorize it, study it. Now it's like, oh, well, I don't really have to because if I hit a rough patch in whatever I'm doing, I'll just Google it. Type it in on the phone. Oh, there you go. Before you go on a trip or do something, you research maps and you look where you're going. And now I'm in Japan. And I'm not worried about even the family is like, you're not going to get lost. And I'm like, no. I got a cell phone with a GPS in it. I'm able to go anywhere I want to just because places I've never been before with no direction. I just say, okay, get me from here to there. Tells me how much. Tells me what train platform to get on at what time. I don't even need to know any Japanese to figure out their schedules. They already have posted up there. Google did it all for me.
You see, your phone is already turning you into a cyborg. Do you not always have it at your side when you leave your house?
Yeah, it's always with me. And when I forget it or leave it at home, like if I come home for a lunch break and I leave that sucker at home, it sucks. I feel so disconnected. Yeah. when it's gone or I forget it somewhere or it's broken or not working, I notice it and I miss it, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it back.
So, in our lifetime, we may very well see computers as powerful as the human brain that runs at 20 watts, which is about as much power as a laptop battery, of a good-sized laptop battery. And at that point, we may very well have androids, and if we don't, we'll have extremely powerful phones in our hands, in our pockets, you name it. So there is something we can all benefit from this, even if it doesn't end up being killer robots.
Sounds good to me. The future of gaming. The gamer will be virtually alive. So that wraps up this segment. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next one now. And now it's time for a random segment. So let's go ahead and do something random. We got a few extra things we want to talk about here. Finally got back from that Japan trip, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed myself over there. This time, I kind of did things a little bit differently. This time, unlike last time, I didn't get dragged around by the family a lot like last time, so we pretty much were in control most of the time of what we were going to do and what we did. I kind of just explored random things and just whatever I could find. Went to a YouTube gathering in Tokyo. That was a lot of fun. Met one of my fans, one of my viewers. I only met one, but thank you for coming to see me. It was really great to talk to you. And, of course, meet other people, too. It's kind of nice because a lot of people are like, what kind of videos do you do? Oh, well, I do tech videos on Linux. And definitely got a lot of questions and people talking to me about Linux. And I think I was able to convert a few people and let them, get them to want to try it. So it was really neat. I really enjoyed myself. Right now there is a little teaser vlog out there teasing what we did. I found some cat litter and went to some golden temples and walked around a little bit. Didn't get too much, I guess you would say, otaku stuff in this particular trip. But there is going to be, it's like last time I went to like the Akibano, I was focused more on the otaku anime stuff. This time I was interested in trying to find Linux in Japan. That failed. I searched long and hard, and there was no Linux in Japan. There was more Apple. Apple dominates the Japanese tech market, and it was saddening. Very little Android, even very little Windows. But I did run into a really cool computer shop. I went upstairs and in this building, I'm like, well, I wonder what they sell. And they sold parts from very old computers to newer computers, screens for phones, parts for phones. It was like a scrapyard of computer parts, and they were selling it on the cheap. I picked up some old RAM for 50 cents a piece. I'm like, they would have like a bin. It would be a huge bin just full of random memory or hard drives or just whatever you can imagine, laptop parts. It was really cool. I want a store like that here, without having to go to garage sales or something like that. I had a lot of fun there. It's things like that. I mean, besides being a lot of people there, if I lived there, it's just a Yodobashi camera makes a Best Buy look like a mom and pop store on the corner. I mean, you're talking floors and floors of just different tech items. That's where I found this mouse that I'm using here. I've been looking for a mouse of this style since Logitech had their TrackMan version that they discontinued, which is everyone's favorite. TrackMan's still out there, but they're going for like $400 or $500. It's ridiculous. And I searched for a model just like this on Amazon. Never did find one. And then I go into Yodobashi Camera and I see this thing sitting there and I'm like, oh, somebody has made that style of mouse again. And it feels good. It feels good. Not available on Amazon, by the way.
You got me really interested in the Yodobashi because I have a friend of mine who's he was just in Hong Kong and he went to Japan yesterday and he left a Facebook post about Yodobashi saying, I've never seen a 9 plus floor electronics store before. That sounds like heaven.
Oh, it is heaven. It's when I get to the vlog, which I want to start uploading those. Maybe I want to try to see if I can do one of these a month, hopefully, between all the podcast and other stuff going on, especially in May. But the bottom floor of the Yodobashi camera, the basement section, was the PC build section. They had like aisles and aisles of just cases. And I saw the one that you sent me a while back, that weird one where the power is on one side and the drives are on the other side and the motherboard's on the other side. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. I actually like it. It's just a little bit too wider than I thought it was going to be, because it's interesting to actually see some of these cases. You browse online in a store and you can look at them, turn them around, see what they look like. And then I go down the next aisle and it's nothing but motherboards after motherboards. And you turn down the next aisle and it's just all processors. And
that's what Fry's Electronics used to be here in the States.
It's too bad that, I guess in America, we're definitely going more and more in the direction of Amazon and online ordering, Netflix and watching our content streaming, so we're not buying physical medium anymore. Did you know over in Japan, physical media is still a thing?
Probably because the internet's so bad.
Yeah, that's another thing. Their internet is bad. You think for a country like that, oh, they have good internet? Well, I guess the reason is it's slower, because when you have one main connection, say going into an apartment building with 1,000 units in it, and they're all online at the same time, and that network, and they have got to be billions of people connecting at one time, it definitely clogs things up. It's not the fastest internet in the world. It made me appreciate my crappy out in the middle of nowhere, Montana internet. Over there was horrible. It was almost like speeds of DSL pretty much everywhere you go.
A country more advanced than us in just about every respect, except the one that counts.
The internet. But like I said, I guess that's what happens when you clog the network up with that many people. They have exchange boxes, and they go for like certain apartment buildings in an area. And it depends on the time of day. The speeds can be 5 megabits download, or 3 hours later, it could be 100 megabits download. Just depends on how many people are connecting to that particular node at the same time.
I'm definitely guilty for the destruction of retail electronic stores in America. I remember the last time I was in a CompUSA was maybe a decade ago, and there was a guy in line telling my dad and I, because my dad was helping me pay for some parts, so I was building a new system, and he told us about Newegg. He's like, yeah, you save a ton of money. Free shipping, and I'd been buying from there ever since. 2 years later, CompUSA gone.
Yeah, even in a small town like this, we used to have like software shops, computer shops. You have a couple of them. Now, you can't find them anymore. At least here, they're all out of business. They're gone.
Yeah, people like us probably stopped needing stores like that a long time ago, but it was still nice to see that stuff around. Like, I was pretty sad. We lost our Radio Shack here 2 years ago.
Yeah, we lost ours about a year ago. And that's what I like. I do like to go in and look at the product. I admit, there's times when I shop on Amazon or Newegg, it looks great on the page, and then you get that, and you're like, what the hell did I just waste my money on? There's something about going in, seeing the product, looking at it, especially when I got to the camera section of Yodobashi camera, where they actually had the cameras. Oh, I was in heaven. And it's really cool to sit there and play with the cameras, see their features, test them out. See, and here, every time I buy a camera, sometimes I get screwed and I don't like the camera. Then I got to return it and try a different one, because I can't just like go in the store and test this thing out and say, oh, right, now that's what I'm looking for, instead of trial and error.
Well, it's like the retail experience for us with a lot of electronics has been replaced with watching YouTube videos, reviews, and doing research for like half a week, as opposed to spending half an hour at a store.
Very, very true. And sometimes you got to watch out for a lot of those reviewers, because they're paid reviewers, and they say something's great and awesome, and then you get it, and it is a piece of shit. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap that up a little bit there before we kind of went on a tangent there about stores. But yeah, stay tuned. Japan vlogs on their way. No 64-bit OS for the Raspberry Pi 3. And I am heated about this. Since I've gotten the Raspberry Pi 3, I have not been able, and that's the reason why there's a delay on its actual video, because when I want to make the video and I want to play with this thing, I want to take it to its full potential. I want to use it. It has it. But did you know a lot of the people out there don't want to do a 64-bit version of an OS for it because they're saying, well, the RAM's not enough. Well, okay, how do you know? Has anybody give it to us and let us play with it? That's what the device is for. Let us play with it. I don't want to sit there and say here a developer saying, oh, it's only got 1 gig of RAM. It's not going to work. So we're not going to even waste our time on it. But we want to play. What's your thoughts on this?
I've been reading the thoughts from what the CEO behind the Raspberry Pi project, Ben Upton, said about it, and they're considering it, but it would end up, at least for say Raspbian, end up being a large code rewrite. It could create really bad fragmentation. Some people will want to develop for the 64-bit branch, and some people will completely neglect the 32-bit branch. So people running the Pi version 1 and the version 2 could be left without support. And I think they're afraid of that happening and would rather prolong and delay that.
Even on the Arch website, I got a kick out of what they're saying. They're saying the current installation uses the 32-bit Raspberry Pi 2 ARM7H root file system. This will be changing eventually to AARch 64 repository to take full advantage of the ARM8 Cortex A 53 cores. If you want the 64-bit version of Arch, and they just had to put this in there, consider the Odroid C2. I wanna experience this machine, and I'm hoping Arch might be the first one to go for the 64-bit version. Only features you're gonna be able to take advantage of is the Bluetooth and the wireless. Otherwise, you're still, in reality, software-wise, it's still a Raspberry Pi 2. And so what's the point of having a device with capabilities and not being able to use those capabilities? I'm just, someone out there, give us a 64-bit ISO. Let us play. Let us judge for ourselves. Because even if things don't work, we'll figure it out. We'll tinker. We'll make it work. I guess if that fails, I guess we'll all go Odroid. Which, you know what? You guys keep bugging me and bugging me and bugging me in that comment section about that thing. It'll be just like a series that I'm going to be doing. You bug me enough and I'll say, okay. There's a demand for it. I'll do it. So that might be on my next order list, and I might just have to scratch the Raspberry Pi 3, put it in the closet, which is where it's sitting, until I get a 64-bit OS. Otherwise, I don't really see the point in playing with it. I'd rather just keep my 2s in service because what's the point? Right now, my Raspberry Pi is a paperweight. Kind of recap our live stream we had a couple days ago. Thought I'd give Unity a try. I couldn't stand it for no more than about 20 to 30. I think it was about an hour. I did go back and watch it. I put up with it for about an hour before I had enough, and I wanted to switch over to Mate. And once I got over to Mate, I got that sucker running on there, able to customize it, and I tortured the living hell out of that laptop, and it was running like a champ.
I'm not sure I can forgive you for making it look like Windows XP in light of what we talked about earlier.
I still love it. Oh, for the background thingy? Why would they even include that in there?
They probably did that just for the joke. I swear I saw you did the window borders, the same kind of blue color scheme and everything. It was more than just the wallpaper you did. You made it look a lot like XP.
Oh yeah, but I'm a big fan of XP. I still, my all-time favorite, just for looks, is the Windows 3.1.1 window borders. I still like that look. That was before Windows made their big change and switched their environment. Maximize, minimize were basically just arrows.
I remember there was one on the left side, and it was, yeah.
I
don't know. I haven't played with that since I was maybe 6.
Do you know secretly?
I can barely remember it. I just didn't like it.
Secretly, it's still there. The one on the right is still there, except now they just put an icon to the app you're using. But there's a little Easter egg there. If you're an old Windows 3.1.1 user, if you remember, in order to close an app, you double-clicked on the one on the left, and it would close the app because there was no close button. You had to double-click on that. That little Easter egg is still there in Windows 10. Next time you open an app, up in that area where you see the little icon up there, double-click on it. It'll close the program. little Easter egg there from Windows 3.1 is still there to this day. Windows 3.11 piece of code has survived all those years and is still there.
No, that was a fun live stream. A lot of feedback from the chat. It was quite fun.
The chat was really nice too. You guys were fun to talk to. It was great.
It was great to play with Mate. Like I said earlier, it was great to play with the GNOME Tomb feel again because it brought me back to high school, back when I converted a friend over to Linux. We would just drag crap around all day, just have we actually had a lot of fun just spending hours dragging panels around. And yeah, seeing you torture that laptop was pretty great too. Guys, watch that live stream. If you got a few hours to burn, watch that live stream.
And if you want the Mate part, just skip the first hour. So I'm going to wrap up this segment and we're going to move on to the feedback. And welcome to the feedback section. Believe it or not, that last episode we did, it didn't really start a fire up anyone's butt. I was a little disappointed. So I don't really have any feedback. There was a few comments from people, but the subject matter was completely off from what the podcast was about. If you're gonna leave feedback, go ahead and leave feedback. You can leave it on the video below in the comments. Keep it related to what we were talking about. You know, I do like it when you guys do go off on other things, but keep it related. Please leave a comment. Please. People commenting on them are just actually people I know. It'd be kind of cool to see you guys. I would like to get to know some of you guys. I noticed a lot of you came out during that live stream. I've never seen comments from you ever. So please interact with the Geeking Off content. Leave some comments on there. Let me know you're there. Actually, there. I want some feedback. I want to know what you guys are thinking. You know, be cool. And that brings us to the poll from last episode. And I asked, is Linux safe? Is Linux a safe OS? 13 votes on yes, and 4 votes on no. We can definitely say a lot of you agree that Linux is a safe OS. So that brings us to a question, I guess, for this week that we're going to have to change this poll to. Are you going to continue to support Canonical and use Ubuntu, or are you going to leave, walk away, and go for another distro? Do you believe that they're the traitors? So head over to anthrit.com. When we get that posted up, I'll post that up when the podcast goes live. And you can go ahead and vote on there. So go ahead, and if you like it, there's still I still have classic email address, feedback@geekingoffpodcast.com. So go ahead, hit me up there if you don't want to, leave a comment. And that brings us to the end of this Geeking Off podcast. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, or whenever you watch it. Just thank you for joining us. It's been great. Next episode, I don't know what it's going to be about, but I'm going to be working on it, and I may have a surprise, may or may not have a surprise for you, but it's going to be interesting because I'd like to do a little section on fandoms and fan sites in the gaming community. And I'm trying to stay away from the drama that's here on YouTube. Even though I do kind of want to say some things, I'm just going to hold off right now and stay away from it. Probably the safest thing to do. But go ahead and hit us up at anthrit.com. Over there, we still have a schedule that I'm trying to work out, figure out how I'm going to do it on the video schedule. I'm still may plan in the future on just dumping this idea and just go with future video ideas, and whenever I get them done, upload them and go. Because staying on a schedule and trying to run on this schedule when your life is all over the place at the moment is really, really difficult. And believe it or not, it adds more stress and takes away from the fun of this hobby. So you can go over there, hit us up at anthrit.com. You can also check us out at thegeekingoffpodcast.com. From there, you can subscribe to the RSS feed or join us on iTunes. Yes. If you're an Apple user, you can go ahead and do that. Yeah. Either way, you can download it, load it on your phone, your MP3 player or whatever, and listen to us while you're driving down your commute to work or on a train, a bus, whatever. And last but not least, we have one of those Patreon pages. If you want to support us, go ahead, throw us a buck. I can take your money and I'll buy beer with it. Thanks for your support and beer. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up here. Close it down. Take a good night. And anything you want to say, Macro, before we get out of here?
Thank you very very much for watching, everybody. Please do leave a comment. We love feedback. We always need ideas for shows like this. We'd very much appreciate it. Don't have to be shy. We don't bite that hard. And we'll see you guys later.
All right, this is Anthony from Mathware, and from this time and every time on, folks, keep on clicking. It's Anthony from Mathware, signing off.
I was the guy who voted no on is Linux safe because he didn't have an option for potentially or maybe or some third option. The potential's there. Or if you worded it safer OS.
Gotcha. The best distro for audio and video production. Switch over there. Come on. Huh. Linux doesn't have any of the consumer-grade audio video editing software. Oh, wow. Actually, I'm going to have to disagree with that article. It does have a consumer-grade software. It's called Lightworks, and it is even used in Hollywood. So it's a very professional editor and used to make actual motion pictures. So I'm going to have to call BS right there. You can't go off of your first line and say that. Obviously, this person who wrote this didn't do their research. So I'm going to have to just, yeah. Going to have to.
My thoughts exactly.
Yeah, wow. I can't believe they said that in the first line. When was this written? I guess that should, 2015. Wow.
February last year.
So, wow, that's interesting. It does recommend LXDE with, one of the studios like AV Linux. I've played with it. It isn't that great. It's, yeah. I have recommended it to some people like, oh, I wanted a free video software. It's like, well, give this a shot, AV Linux, and, just live boot it, edit a video if you want to, and then you can jump back on your Windows. Hopefully, even for the Windows users, I can start suggesting OpenShot to them. But OpenShot is a project that has been so buggy and has been plagued for a very long time with issues. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go very far in the future unless somebody else takes over that project. Because Kadian Live's going way beyond it right now for a free version video editor. And then, like I said, there's still Lightworks if you want to pay for it. You want to commercial grade, but video production on Linux, I'm doing it. I've been doing it for about almost 2 years, running my channel off of Linux. So anybody saying that Linux can't produce, I'm sorry. I will disagree with you every time. I am an example of that for the last 2 years.
I feel like this article's clickbaity.
Same here. I'm looking at it, especially how I'm going through this article. I'm like, I'm definitely disagreeing with some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was agreeing with about 3/4 of it, and then reading the AV section, and then this. It's like, no, this isn't legit. And it's funded by the Linux Foundation.
Go figure.